long time ago in a galaxy almost far, far away, four makers unite in order to share and discuss their maker knowledge and some interesting topics along the way. Join us as we light the spark that brings back your childhood in the Almost Star Wars show!
Hey guys, welcome back for another episode of the Almost Star Wars show. It's so good to be back. And as you can see, we're not with Brian today. And I'm going to let Ron tell us what's happened to Brian. But we are here with Tony. But before we get to Tony, I'm James from the Rebel Base Build. And I'm here with
Dennis from the Black Market Outpost.
Ron, otherwise known as CG Artist.
Tony from Docking Bay 327. Since Brian's not here, what's up, you awesome geeks?
That's right. That's exactly how it goes.
Tony. Welcome to the show. It's good to see you again.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah,
welcome.
It's been a while.
Yeah, I think the last time we did this, maybe we were talking about our Millennium Falcon benches along with Brian. I could be remembering that wrong.
Yep.
If so, that was too long ago.
Way too long. Yeah.
So it's great to have you on the show.
Thanks.
So we've got a couple of topics for you guys today, and we're going to talk to Tony. We're going to find out a little bit about this man and what makes him tick, and learn a little bit more about his amazing Star Wars room, which he just builds so quickly, which is kind of annoying, actually. But it's really great stuff. So, guys, let's get in there. Tony, what got you into Star Wars and the room building, and tell us a little bit about everything that you've done there.
Sure. Glad to. Well, I've loved Star Wars since I saw, A New Hope, before it was A New Hope, at the drive-in with my parents. I was about 4 or 5 years old. I don't remember much about it. I do remember Darth Vader. But, as the other movies came up, I was in the perfect age to get all of the little action figures and, hang with my friends and pretend we were those characters and having all those Star Wars adventures, So I've always been a Star Wars fan, but about 3 years ago, I stumbled on to Brian Thompson's YouTube channel. And as all of you, I think, have been influenced by him, obviously, but I just remember thinking, well, my actual reaction was, I'm in so much trouble. This is so cool.
So I have a quick question for you. Had you had anything done prior to finding Brian? Like, was anything in your room, or was your room like a blank canvas prior to that?
It was a complete mess.
See, that's the thing, man. Your room went up like super quick.
Yeah, that's the annoying thing I was talking about. Right?
Well, the timing worked out well because I worked from home. The pandemic hit, and I had this office already, so I just completely gutted it pretty much because it was just a place to shove everything else,
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I didn't commit to anything, Dennis. Like when I had that reaction, I thought, I know how I am. I'm going to get really excited about this for about a minute, and then I'm going to, squirrel. Something else is going to pull my attention. But it was just kind of the perfect storm. And I think what really kind of catapulted me into building out the room was when I took over the garage. And my wife is an absolute amazing woman and actually let me do it. So I took an old dining room table and moved it out so I've got about half the garage,
Right.
We could still squeeze a car in if we had to, but once I did that, she actually got inspired to redo her office once she saw how committed I was. But at that point, I hadn't really built anything yet, so I just started small, and just now it's this.
So was there initially a game plan on what you wanted to do, or did you just sort of piece it together as you went? Because that's kind of where I'm at.
All together.
Just whatever comes to mind. I think I'm going to try that and see what it looks like.
Yeah.
I got to jump in there. You said you inspired your wife to do her office. Did I hear that right? What theme is that? That's obviously Star Trek theme, right?
Well,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Uh,
But what I'm interested. What does she do
no,
with it?
it wasn't. It's not necessarily themed. It was just she took over the dining room and made it into a really nice, professional looking office. Nothing like this,
Okay.
Uh-oh.
But-
You got to be a better influence then.
right? Well, she does find Greeblies for me. Like she's always,
Yeah.
grabbing some old, pill bottles or
Mhm.
random things, and she'll walk up to me and say, "Greebly," and I say,
Exactly.
Really?
Put it in a pile.
Right.
All right.
"Mhm."
Whilst we're on the subject of Greeblies, we probably do need to explain where Brian is. Ron, we did say we were going to come to you for the Brian news. So
That's right. Yeah. So
Hmm.
he's on Mandalor, trying to figure out why Mando completely just sank as soon as he stepped into the water. So he's figuring that out.
yeah, about that. What
Yeah.
was that? No, that's for later. That's for later.
That is for later, and
That
there's
is for
plenty to
later.
talk about there.
Yeah. Tony, I got a question for you about the aesthetics of your room. I know you do a lot with lighting, and lighting is, you can make really cool spaces with lighting, but it can also make or break a space. And before we get on to the awesome backdrop that Dennis is sitting in front of at the minute with his new lighting he's installed, which
Right?
is amazing, by the way, let's
Yeah.
hear about your take on lighting and how you apply that to get those amazing effects in your room.
Sure. Yeah. So because I've kind of pieced it together, along the way. Some things are lit, some things aren't. And a lot of times I'll add lights just because, well, like my column here, I've got lights going all the way up, all the way around. I was just gonna do the base, and then I changed my mind and ran lights through the whole thing. But it's a small space, right? This is a very small office. I don't know what the square footage is, 800 feet, maybe not even that. But so it's real easy to cast some cool shadows, with the props, adding a little bit of LED strips or whatever. So all throughout the room, I have different kind of, effects that give you a different feel.
Right.
And do you think the change of the lighting gives it depth? Because if you say it's a small space, do you think, I mean, for me, it looks like a big space. So the lighting must be kind of,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny, because I have pictures of, and some of the people I work with saw what it was like, before,
Mhm.
and they're like, it's funny, it actually looks bigger than it did before. And I said, well, thank you very much. But no, it was, it's a weird thing, with, I guess the layering really helps. I
Yeah.
have to say, I have, all this was made by hand, right? Was hand tools. You guys joked and called me the Jigsaw Jedi because that's still to this day, that's what I use. My table saw is full of, it's got a bunch of stuff piled on it. I don't even use it. Part of it is because it's kind of scary. It was my late father's table saw, and it's
Mhm.
probably not in the best shape.
Mhm.
So there were a couple times I was using it during the different builds, and would make some strange noises or kick back something on me, and I'm like, I can do this with a jigsaw. I don't need this table saw.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
kickback, that is scary. I've
Yeah.
had a couple of pieces fly past me, and I'm lucky I wasn't standing
Right.
right behind there. Otherwise, I'd be hitting the torso pretty hard.
Yeah.
And the moment you turn the thing on, that motor, when it revs up, you're like, man,
I
I
want
don't
to
know
keep
if I
all
want
my
to do
digits.
this.
I play the
I could
guitar
probably use
too,
one.
so it would be
Yeah.
double terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing it the way you do it, Tony. The outcome is
Right.
fantastic, right? It doesn't matter if you're
Thanks, man.
using a handsaw and cutting the wood and it takes you a week to do it. But when when the results are what we see behind you,
Mhm.
there's no right or wrong way.
Hey, just know that I started off with the jigsaw only, and
Yeah.
that's 90% of this room, except
Right.
for like maybe the door and some of these
Yeah.
lit areas. All these panels was jigsaw, and it was an underpowered jigsaw, by the way, too. It was one of those kind where it was a multi-tool where you take a attachment and
Oh,
put it
wow.
on there.
Right.
Yeah, so it was like really underpowered.
And
Which
in all reality, sometimes it's not even necessary, right? You see this wall behind me? It's all done with a knife. I
Right.
hand
See?
cut all that.
Yeah.
The 2x4s, again, jigsaw, right? Build a box, and the rest of it's all hand cut with a utility knife.
It's amazing, Dennis. Those props are really popping behind you. It just looks
They
so
are.
cool. That's the first time I've seen. Obviously, I think
Lit up,
which
yeah.
are we treated to the first ever
Yeah,
view in
this
front of
is
your wall
the
today.
first
I think.
public viewing of the wall and the lights together.
It's great. So I'm actually looking over the monitor because I'm just looking at the glory of this. Yeah, the
But-
remote as well. The way the remote's just slowly spinning and it pops because it's blue
Oh,
in
yeah.
front of that.
I'm so jealous
warm
of that
light.
thing. I want one of those.
Me too.
It's great. Tony, you also do the graphic design and stuff you're talking about, the animations. And I know you've put a few videos out showing some of those things.
Right.
That stuff's genius. I mean, I dabble with that too. I teach some of that stuff. But it's great to see you doing it. And, you know, people do things in different ways. So I learned from you looking at some of the stuff you've done. That's really cool. Can you tell us a little bit more about that side of your design skills?
Well, thanks, James. I doubt that I'm teaching you anything. But, you know, I have worked in After Effects for almost 2 decades, so I'm very familiar with it and can get my way around it fairly quickly. So if I know what I want to do, I can see it in my mind, then I can usually recreate it. So, you know, and of course, nowadays you just go on YouTube and find out how to do a star field. I mean, within 2 clicks, you've got it, you know.
Right.
I do want to eventually add some like funny little things in, like have, you know, Grogu like kind of floating past the window.
Yeah. That would be funny.
With a spacesuit and an oxygen supply, I hope. Don't be upsetting my little Grogu.
I think it's he fell out.
Yeah.
Somehow I think your vision was more frozen and dead, maybe. I don't know.
With the little ball in his hand too.
This is a family show.
So also, Tony, you mentioned that it's like visual. Do you plan things out, or you just imagine it, see it, and then go? Because that's what I do. Like I put stuff in my book or whatever, but even when I put it in the book, when it's time to build, it just what's in my head is what's coming out.
Gotcha. I do. I'll go into Illustrator and lay it out in 2D. Mainly because, again, it's a very small space and I'm limited to what I have here. So when I start a build, I focus on an area of the room and I think, what could be done here, right? Once I come up with the idea, then I measure it all and then I lay that out in Illustrator because I want to make sure it fits. You know, otherwise I'd be building something twice as big and then it's not fitting through the door. Why isn't it? You know, so yeah, I kind of lay it all out. And early on, I would even print them and mark all of the measurements for every little thing, you know. I don't do that as much anymore, but.
Well, I think that's the thing about what we all do and what the community does. You know, there's a lot of thought and planning that goes into all of these builds or miniatures or whatever it is we're working on. It's not just something that we're geeky and we all of a sudden make something. There's a lot involved in that.
Right.
And I've got to pick up on the fact that Dennis mentioned his book. Right, we have seen this amazing book. In fact, I was treated to a personal viewing of this design book of Dennis's when the guys came over to the UK to see me. And whilst they were seeing me, we actually went to this Star Wars celebration event as well.
They were there to see you.
merely a coincidence.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Yeah.
So that's what it looks like.
He actually graded one of the pages, like as if I was a student.
I forgot that. I did, yeah.
You know, it's funny you say that because I don't know why, but in the room that we were staying in, as we were gathering all our things, someone left behind a red pen. And I thought, where was this yesterday? I needed this. So it's so weird that of all things random, a red pen was there. And that was perfect. That's what you needed to grade his book with. A couple stars and smiley faces and stuff.
I actually did get a smiley face on the grade.
Hey, all right.
There you go. I was in a good mood. So, Tony, what's your favorite prop that you've made so far in your room? What would you say is the one that you enjoy the most?
Gosh, it's all so damn cool. Like I walk in the door every morning and it's like, oh,
yeah.
I step back into my childhood and I'm enjoying the movies all over again. Han's cool, but he's not my favorite. believe it or not. Actually, and you alluded to this at some point tonight already, James, but my
There
Falcon
she is.
bench.
There she is. Look at that.
Yeah, it's really well done.
Right.
No, you
Well,
can leave the Empire there. That's
Were you
fine.
playing with your toys earlier, Tony? Sorry, we're
There you
disturbing
go.
Pew pew.
Pew pew as he shows his bench. Sorry, it's a bad joke.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that right there is, that whole back section there. That was one of those, like you said, Dennis, you kind of get this moment and you're like, that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
Right. And of course it took me quite a while to put it all together.
Right.
But yeah.
I mean, that's part of the struggle, right? Same thing with this room. I was like, I mean, it took years to figure out what I wanted to do. I didn't want to do a ship. I didn't want to do a cargo. I didn't want to do a.
Right.
So just one day sitting here, I was like, man, I got a ton of stuff on the wall in the garage. Let's just antique this place.
I love it, man. It looks absolutely amazing. But you bring up a good point. Like, for everybody who's watching this, if you haven't started a room build, or you started but you are still kind of struggling with theme, like, what kind of look and feel do I really want to get? Ron is obvious, absolutely loves the Empire and everything about that.
The misunderstood Empire, by the way.
Okay.
The real good
really
guys.
The good guys.
Exactly.
Again, my room's very small, but I have one whole wall here that I'm looking at that's complete Empire themed, right? And then I've got this whole back wall and the arch are more Millennium Falcon. And then, of course, I've got Han and Jabba's palace, and then just like a engine wall. I mean, it's just a culmination of all things Star Wars inspired. None of it's screen accurate or anything like that.
Right.
And that was one of the many things that Brian really, he made it okay. He said it turned out to be their channel was basically giving people permission to do something that they didn't even know they really wanted to do.
Right.
And that's absolutely what happened to me. I had no clue I would ever want to do this. I'd never made anything by hand ever.
Yeah.
So, everything I had done up to that point was on a computer. My dad was the carpenter. I'm not, but I wanted to do this and I was so excited about it. And he made it so easy looking, like it's okay, and then the used universe, of course, it's going to look messy anyway. So
if
I mess up, it's not going to be that obvious. I'll just cover it up with some, blackwash or,
right.
whatever. So,
or a Greebly patch. That would work.
Or a Greebly patch.
Those two things can solve any issue.
Yeah,
that's right.
So, Tony, when you get to the point of filling all of the space, because that inevitably, I guess, has to happen at some point, what are you going to do? You're going to start again? I mean, don't start again because it's awesome. But are you going to take over another room, or are you going to pivot slightly? I mean, what's the plan?
Well, right now, like, I've redid a couple of areas. One was with the awesome control panels that Martine built, and I just had to have
Martine.
And another area that you're going to see a video very soon on my terrarium, where I made a space where there really wasn't one. But eventually, yes, I've got one wall back here that I still need to Star Warsify. And then I'm planning on moving out into the main basement. Shh, don't tell my wife.
That's good.
So, I've thought about that also. Like, what do you do when you're done? But are you ever really done? Because
exactly,
most of it's a learning process, right? So you did something that's cool, but then you look at it and you're like, oh, if I just took it down and did this and this, it'd be that much more cooler. Right. So you sort of backtrack and repair something you don't like, or something that's great but not perfect, or there's always something to do.
Yep. And while this is a cool space for Han, it might end up being a very cooler space just outside, in the main basement area. and then I have a whole open spot here that I
Right,
can,
right.
do something different with. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah, and
Yeah,
then
that's
eventually we'll sell the house and I'll start all over again.
that's
Yeah,
one thing I
right.
did make sure I did too, and I think Ron did the same, is I made it all modular. So if I gotta
Yep.
go, it can go as well.
Yep.
I've done that as also, if I could probably, I could tear all this out in about 2 to 3 days
Yeah.
Mhm.
without tearing it up, just
Right, right,
taking it
right.
all down and taking it out over here. And other than a few holes in the wall, you would
Right.
never know any of this even was
Right.
here.
Yeah.
And I did that intentionally too, because it's a nice house, and I didn't want my wife getting upset with me, like, so for instance, this window here, while it looks super permanent, it's not. I
Yeah.
can literally go over there right now and grab those handles and take the whole thing out. It's just sitting
yeah.
inside the window.
Just unplug it.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
cool. Awesome.
Yeah, see, I think that's what I allowed that to kind of stop me a little bit with my build, because I started doing the Rebel base build and I got quite away with that corner, got my bench, I got the back wall. I started on the hollow table. The
Yeah.
hollow table is paused right now.
Mm.
And then my day job changed a little bit and it became really much more involved and I lost a lot of time in the evening. And then we had this whole thing about moving house and stuff. So it kind of felt a little bit of a level of complexity I probably didn't really need to be dealing with. And I pivoted to miniatures for a little while and then found a really great community there and sort of stayed there for a little while. But like you guys, the original intention was for it to be modular, and my bench is actually really modular, as you know, because it's made from foam. And if I get it right in the summer, I will be taking it to one of the cons here in the UK as a little bit of a setup piece. I've been talking to some guys about that. So
Nice.
hopefully kind of sort of get that back up a little bit, the whole
Mhm.
room build side of things, because that is fun. It's a whole different ball game than miniatures and dioramas and stuff. So
Yeah.
and it was really good working on the gun prop for the blaster prop for celebration. It was nice to sort of be back on the props.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'll be coming to you all and asking you about the whole modular aspect, because I think that's the way forward, right? Just continue building and make sure you can just unplug it and move it around and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. But
Another good thing about that too is
Yeah.
if you're in an apartment situation where you don't own the home,
Exactly.
you can still make these things. You can put up an entire facade.
Right.
I mean, a couple of holes in your wall, which you could chop it up to like picture frames, right?
Right, right,
You put some
exactly.
French cleats up there, and then you put your panel on the French cleat, and there
Yeah.
you have it. It's completely transformed. And then when
Yeah.
it's time to move out, you just lift the thing up and off, patch those few little holes, and you still can do this even in a rental situation.
Right.
That's a great point, because several people on my channel and Instagram have said that, one of these days I want to do it, but I'm just renting right now. You don't
Yeah.
have to wait. You
Nope.
can do it
No,
like Ron's talking about. I mean, that's exactly how I've done it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the same way I've done it. I mean, it just logically it makes sense. You never know what the situation is, right? Or you're going to be there permanently, or you not.
Right.
But like, I build everything in 8-foot sections, which is a standard sheet of foam or drywall.
Mhm.
So everything can come out in 8x4. Just right out, just unscrew it and move it wherever you want.
Nice. Mine are like 4x2 because I don't have a truck.
Yeah.
Every now and then I'll have a buddy of mine, haul
Right.
big 8x4 sheets, but
Yeah.
most of the time I have to have it a little bit more manageable for me.
Right.
But either way, you can do it.
well, I
So
for
there
one
you
think
go.
it's an amazing space, Tony. You've done
I agree.
you've done a terrific job on that, and I've been watching your career with interest.
We will watch your career with great interest.
But it's quick. It is super quick. That's the thing. I see you working on something. A couple of images pop up here and there, and then bam, there's the video, and it's impressive. It's great. A valuable member of the community, I think, and people take a lot from that, inspirational wise.
Yeah.
So,
Agreed.
so keep it up. So
That
in your room, then is obviously not obviously it's an office, right? It is geared more as an office. Have you got like a viewing area in there for watching stuff? Or is it purely just kind of office space? Like if you were to sit back and watch The Mandalorian season 3, for example, where would you do that?
I would do that out in the other side of the basement. So, I mean, I have 2 monitors right here in front of me that I could use, and sometimes I do in a lunch break or whatever. I want to rewatch the Mando and get, kind of pick out some of the details, figure out the
Right.
props or whatever, right? But yeah, because I work down here all day, when I want to kick back, I'll either go to my workshop and do something with my hands away from the computer monitors, or I'll go, like I said, go in the other room and watch.
So you're saying you work down there all day, client wise, if you're zooming or whatever, they're looking at what I'm looking at right now.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. That's
great.
awesome.
And they're like, cool
Like,
background,
I mean,
bro.
you had some insane reactions for,
Oh.
First timers or whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
That's just awesome.
One of the meetings, I almost broke the Zoom call because like so many people flipped out because I waited to turn my camera on until it was my turn.
Right.
And then as soon as I did, I said something like, hey, streaming to you live from a galaxy far, far away. And everything else I said, nobody heard it. They were.
You find yourself moving the camera to prove it's not a green screen.
Yes, I do that quite often too.
Yeah.
This week, the guy was like, "Oh, that's a cool background." I was like, "Well, it's actually, my
actually my room.
This is real.
Yeah,
The real deal.
right.
That's awesome.
I'll tell you what's good about the space as well. It just looks good from any angle as well. There's so much detail and lighting.
Yeah,
You can shift that around and it still looks impressive.
All right, so that's my bookshelf, and way up there is my latest terrariums. And I don't have enough cable to really show you, but these are the bookshelves that were just here, and I just painted them and then started collecting new.
Oh, that's cool. So they're like built-ins?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. That's awesome.
Very nice.
Yeah.
What a great idea.
So, and then that's what else I look at all day long. And this actually is a docking station for my work laptop.
Oh, nice.
The docking station, everything's in there, and then it connects to my monitors right there. So I'm literally working all day long in here. Yeah, I love it.
Nice.
I absolutely love it.
I think you inspired Dennis. You saw something.
I've got 2 bookcases here that were part of the old setup. And they're like the square modular ones.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like perfect size for a helmet rack. So I'm going to try to build one into foam just for helmets.
Nice.
So it'll be like a 6-section and just helmets in each one, and then I'll light it up.
There you go.
Because I want the
Very
corners to be like 45'd instead of like 90s. So it'll kind of give the room a little bit of a rounder look, like it would be, at Galaxy's Edge.
Right.
The Spice Runners Lounge, they have there's lots of people on there, the Facebook group, where they display lots of the the statues and the helmets. They use specific shelving and stuff. So there's some really great solutions out there, lighting and things. So
my close friend, been friends all my life, really, with him. And we were growing up, he always had the cool toys. I couldn't, Mom and Dad couldn't quite afford the Millennium Falcon and some of those things for me, but he always had them. And so he'd bring them over, and I'd have my few little figures, whatever, my land speeder, that was about it. But it was okay. It was fine, because he had it all. So, and he would always share it with me. Later on, he moved to his own place, and he has a whole room that's dedicated to all of those toys, because he still has all of his original toys.
Right.
Nice.
But how he did it was glass cases. It looks great, right? I mean, that's one way to display your toys, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't have any of my toys.
Action figures, not toys.
I'm sorry, action figures. Yeah,
collector's items.
So I gave all those away when I was a teenager and not knowing what I was doing, but so I didn't really have much to display anyway. And then with Brian's idea of like creating like a movie set, I thought, man, that's brilliant. And then I can, like, this bookshelf, was already there. I'm still thinking about how I might be able to make it a little bit different, because right now it's all just kind of like we saw it, kind of crammed full of Black Series and then 3 3/4 inch characters, and it's kind of messy. I kind of want to clean it up a little bit.
Even if you left the shelf the way it was and just did some fascia panels,
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Cover it. Yeah. Dennis, you actually said it. You're never really done. Like, 'cause so that alone could be a
Right.
couple months worth of a project,
Right.
Yep.
But again, it was just perfect storm. The girls, our daughters, they were still in college at the time, but they were grown, you know,
Yeah.
young adults. So most of their activities and all of that got stifled for the pandemic anyway,
Mhm.
and yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you guys do it with little ones, because that would be,
It's
pretty
tough.
tough to find the time,
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Mm.
It is. It's definitely a balancing act for sure. But
Yeah.
you've got to keep it going, right? Because this is what we do.
Right.
We that creative outlet,
Yes.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's great to be able to do it together. But I guess the thing is, Tony, whatever you do with the space moving forward, it's your space, and it's awesome already, and it's only going to get even more awesomer. That's a word. And I can't wait to see and hear what you do with the larger space. That's going to be great. However,
Yeah.
we've all just, I guess, come off the back of season 3 of Star Trek Picard. Sorry, guys. Sorry, season 3 of The Mandalorian, which was, a really interesting, great in places. For me anyway, my opinion, was a bit of a mixed bag, actually,
Yes.
compared to season 1 and season 2. Still loved it, still enjoyed it. Beautiful looking, nice, lots of really great stuff in there. But I felt there was a few narrative issues, and certainly comparing it to itself, what they've already delivered. So let's have a chat about that and see where we all fit with that. Ron, what do you think about Mandalorian season 3? Let's hear it.
Yep. So I went back and watched a couple of the episodes. I think it's almost like this was a season that had to happen just to tie up loose ends. And the reason I say that is because at the very end, it's almost like a brand new chapter. We can start over. We've got all that stuff out of the way, all the players and everything.
Right.
And now, now I can do these tasks and kind of get back to what made season 1 so special, is what it seems like. So we've got all the bad blood out, so to speak, and now we can start over. At least that's how I felt it ended, I said it last time during our celebration get together that there were definitely some misses, and there were a few good things in there. I mean, I hate to say this, but the only saving grace for the series, I think, was just the action sequences, minus the action with the clones at the base. I felt like that was just kind of cliche. We've seen all that before, and with Moff Gideon, if he's dead, his demise was it just wasn't as climactic enough.
Right.
I'll speak to this very quickly, but I'm watching Picard. It's just a quick snippet, and
do it, Ron. Do it.
I care more about what's happening with those characters in that show than I do in season 3 of Mando. It got to a point where I stopped caring. I know there should have been a time, or there was probably once a time, when Grogu is being attacked. When anyone goes after Grogu, there used to be a feeling like, oh no, we can't let that happen. Whereas in season 3, when they were going after him and he was in his IG-11, it was comical, and I did not care. It didn't have the feeling of when Luke Skywalker, spoiler, when Luke Skywalker arrived at the end of season 2. That something really special happened right there. And it was subtle at first, and then everyone was like, wait, that could be, you all know how you felt when you saw that. In fact, there's plenty of memes and
I was bawling my eyes out.
Shorts and stuff that you see on Facebook. Yeah. And then, tears came to eyes. That was completely gone in season 3. There was times where I'm sitting on a train watching it, and that's probably part of the reasons, on a small screen. An iPad. And I'm just, at certain points, I just started looking out the window, and that's not good. Whereas, Picard, I'm like, Oh my God. And I'm not going to speak anymore about that. That's on another totally different show that we're going to have.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I feel like there were so many episodes that were just like unnecessary or didn't even fit the story.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you're doing the pools of Mandalore. Okay, great. What's the pirate thing about? Like, where did that come from?
Seaweed Man.
Initially, but I'll be honest with you. Initially, when I saw it, the first thing that clicked into my mind is they're building this up for Skeleton Crew, right?
Yeah.
This is going to be the villains of Skeleton Crew. A little hokey, but again, Skeleton Crew is going to be very kid based. It's going to be a group of kids. So I thought, this could work, right? Even Seaweed Man could work in a show like that. But then 2 episodes later, they kill off the whole crew.
Yep.
So I just don't understand. It wasn't even a misdirection or anything. It was just hey, here's the pirates. They want to drink in the school, and then we're gonna kill them. And then it just, I don't know. It just, to me, season 3 wasn't season 3 until maybe episode 8 or 9.
Yeah.
I feel like the first, 4 episodes were just, I don't know. I don't even know what direction it was headed in. It was just, I don't know. It was a tough watch. Like Ron said, I caught myself, answering a text or looking away or whatever the case may be.
To be fair, Ron, the whole Luke returning, that's a once in a lifetime thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
You'll never capture. That's lightning in a bottle. You'll never.
Right.
Yeah. So part of it is, it was such an awesome scene and episode and series. That whole, season 2 was just, for the most part, absolutely incredible, right?
It was.
And the first season, we're trying to just kind of, who is this guy? We don't know the Mandalorian, and kind of following him around in his, first person perspective and the whole gunslinger thing. I mean, that was all brand new. And so now season 3, it's kind of like, when you have a second or third movie in a trilogy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hit or miss whether you're going to be able to capture enough and have a story that's as compelling, So to be fair to Filoni and Favreau, which those guys in my book are absolutely amazing, right?
Agreed.
In my mind, they're saving Star Wars because they're such super fans, but I'd pay attention to all the detail. Give the fans a little bit of, enough
service.
Geek service, whatever, to make it, oh, I remember that toy, whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
They do it on purpose, right? But they do it well. They do it well. So I think you're right. I think season 3 kind of let's just wrap all this up so we can do something else, because it's I mean, half the season felt like Bo-Katan's story, not even Mandalorian. He was just kind of there,
right?
Yep.
And Grogu, what was he doing? I don't know.
Yeah.
So
yes.
I can see where you all felt that way.
To your point, I agree. I think this season was more The Mandalorian, but not Din Djarin, The Mandalorian. I do agree with you, and I think right around what I was saying earlier, right around that halfway point, 6, 7, 8, Bo-Katan, and that was their story. This is what we're going with.
So I've got I think about this quite a bit. I have a long commute every day, and Star Wars has been my baby for as long as I can remember. So it kind of pains me almost to feel the way I did about season 3 of The Mandalorian, actually. And Ron talks about Picard and stuff. We've had discussions about that, and I remember feeling actually quite sad that, in my opinion, season 3 of Picard trumped in many ways season 3 of Mandalorian. I'm franchise fluid, so I'm quite happy to say that now. Not everyone's not going to agree with that, so we'll put the Picard thing to one side for a second and talk about Mando. However, I think when we say things like this season had to happen, and I get why you say it, and I agree, and it was wrapping up storylines, and I agree with that as well. And then also we can say that the Luke Skywalker thing was like lightning in a bottle. However, and I agree with you all, but what I would say is this season could have been anything they wanted it to be, and it didn't have to be those things. It didn't have to be a wrap up.
Yeah.
And they could have found a way to. I mean, think about that scene with Luke and the X-wing and Grogu and how sad Din was sort of handing him over. That was all the end of that journey that was written that way. It was a situation that was concocted and made and written so well that everybody that watched it was on the edge of their seat. That's an X-wing. It's not Luke. Oh my God, it's Luke. And I get chills now even thinking about it. It's just the perfect Star Wars moment, right?
Right.
But who would have thought when we finished watching Return of the Jedi that all those decades later that we'd be watching Luke turn up on a random ship with some random Mandalorian picking up some random green kid.
Right.
And that would mean something. And it did mean something because it was written so well. And that's the point I'm going to say is I think, it was lightning in a bottle, definitely. But they put it there, right? So they could have done that with season 3. And I know it's a tough act to follow. But there are other actors and characters in that time period that and I know some people are against cameos, but what if they'd have found a really meaningful way to bring a young looking Han Solo on the screen for some, there could have been a storyline that led to that. I mean, people would have rolled their eyes like, oh, okay, we had Luke season 2, now Han Solo season 3, but it would have still been damn cool, right? And I just felt like it was a wasted season that they could have done more with. And Dennis, you said it, there were so many throwaway episodes, right?
Yeah. So I have a question for you, James. How much of it do you think is because maybe, so we know that Favreau is writing every episode. Okay. So season 1, season 2, there wasn't so much going on. What do you think? Do you think there's too much on his plate? He's writing, he's producing, he's running over here to check on the skeleton crew. Ahsoka's filming at the same time Skeleton Crew's filming. Skeleton Crew's filming at the same time Mando's filming. You know, these two guys are in 10 different places in one day.
Yeah.
I found myself throughout the whole season asking myself, is this really coming out of John and, is this really coming out of those two? That's what I kept asking myself. It doesn't feel like stuff they've done before. And, we coined a phrase, I think, on our last video that we like all Star Wars and we like some less. And season 3 for me was just that. I liked it less than I liked season 2, but it was still damn good.
Yeah.
Still enjoyed it. It was still amazing Star Wars.
Right.
So, viewers don't ever think I'm bashing it, but because it is great, but we're here to talk about it. Right. And I think that there is an element of that. Maybe it is growing a bit. The franchise is growing and there's a lot to do. Right. And I think corners are being cut and I think people are being spread a bit thin. But I also wonder, and I'm not going to jump on the Kathleen Kennedy thing because it's because of her we've got all of this stuff, I guess. And, she was the person that put out all those amazing films in the 80s. So we need to give her some credit. However, I do wonder how much of this influence is Disney. Like, why do we have to have, I think, Ron, you said it earlier, the pirates or whoever it was that said it, the pirates were there and then they weren't, is that because we want to sell toys? I don't know. I don't, but they seem to be really focused and obsessed with making big battle scenes, which unfortunately, as you said, Ron, didn't mean anything. They just didn't mean anything. And I know we touched on it during the last live show. Well, not live show, sorry, the last episode where we talked about Tony Gilroy's words on Andor, and he was saying that scenes meant so much because there was a correct build-up to it. Right. And it was the build-up part that was missing for me on season 3.
Agreed.
Somebody described it as hollow. And it rung true with me. I thought, yes, the season felt hollow.
That's a fantastic word.
And I can't quite put my finger on why.
I think you touched on something where someone else has their hand in the pot, because we look at Mando season 3 and then we look at the Ahsoka trailer and they're so totally different, right?
Yeah, agreed.
So and of course this is completely what Favreau, right? That's doing
the writing,
doing everything for it, and he's kind of like, I'm doing this. Everybody stay out of it. This is mine,
right?
And it shows already in the trailer versus the entire season 3. So
Yeah.
you're probably right, James. Someone else was like, could you change that and add? Okay, now it's good.
I mean, they're bringing Rick Famuyiwa on as a third producer on the Mando show, right? I can only imagine they're doing this because of how thin everybody's spread. And again, like James was saying, it probably is cost cuts, and I mean, there's a lot to it, right? We're not movie makers. I don't know what goes into it, but I can imagine there's a lot going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So was it a totally terrible season? No.
Hell no. There was some amazing stuff. So let's talk about some amazing stuff, right? I got to say, the first few episodes, I loved the visuals. And there was some use of the volume, and we both love and don't like the volume. We love it, and we depends on who's using it and how. But I, for one, really kind of enjoyed the use of it. And some of the uses more than others. But there were some nice environments made. I kind of grew to really enjoy where the N1 landed on Mandalor, the crystalline structures and stuff. Once I understood what it was, and it was crystalline, it was just a really eerie environment that they created, and it just grew on me, and I thought, that's cool. And it kind of felt like sci-fi from old. I think, Dennis, you said it before about droids hiding behind rocks and coming out of rocks. It looked really, it's just a nice environment,
Yeah.
And I think they've nailed the look of the spaceships in the space battles. I think the lighting looks like A New Hope, where the models are so brightly lit, and you can always be forgiven for thinking you're watching the original Star Wars when you're seeing the space battles. So they've nailed that. Beautiful stuff. Visuals are just on point. Really, really great.
Yeah, I agree.
And Navarro, gotta love Navarro.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a great the evolution of Navarro, right? Where we left it at season 2, and then if you paid attention, every episode from like episode 1 on in season 3, it kept progressing, right? It kept becoming prettier, trees, flowers, greenery, buildings, structures, and then they blow it up. Right? And then it goes through a full on back to day 1.
Maybe that's what season 3 was. Blew it up, and now back to day 1.
Yeah. You know what? You may not be wrong on that.
Yeah.
And then there's the droids. Then there's the droid undercurrent, isn't there? The whole droid rights. Tony, what's your thoughts on that? Because they've played on that a few times, and we've touched on it once before, but I'd like to explore that a bit more. So the droid thing.
I liked it. It kind of reminded me of what they did with Solo.
Yes.
Giving them a purpose.
Right.
It was kind of like Star Wars meets iRobot or something like that, where what else are we going to do?
Right.
So I really liked that perspective on it, I still don't understand what Doc Brown, I don't understand why he would do what he did. It didn't make any sense to me.
Right, I agree. That's another one of those ends that we're like, where's this going?
Like
what's his outcome?
What did you think would happen?
Yeah.
All he knew is Dooku was right.
That's what happens. It's that season that, however, even when you talk about the good stuff, it will always be that season that you always end up talking about the stuff that doesn't make sense.
Right.
You know what I mean? And no one's doing.
I'm with you, James. I think we all are. We absolutely loved it. It's Star Wars, it's new content, it's new stories, new characters and plot lines, and weaving it all in. I think they're doing a very good job with setting up the sequels, bridging that gap and making it make more sense, so that maybe another 5 years from now we can look back and go, okay, I get it. I can buy that now that I have 5 years of context. You know what I mean? So I think that's really a big part of what they're trying to do.
Bridge the gap in time and introduce us to new characters, and then of course we all know the movie that's supposed to tie all of this together too, which hopefully they continue with that. I really want to see these new movies coming.
Hope it doesn't get canceled.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like Ahsoka coming. Oh, I'm so stoked.
I am too. That looks great.
It does. What did you guys think of Zeb?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
Zeb
Oh,
is
it's amazing.
the
So-
facial animation that
Yeah.
they did for him was
Was
I mean,
perfect.
while brief, was really, really well done.
Yeah.
Because that was one of those scenes where you could phone it in, right? You don't,
Oh yeah.
not a
Right,
main
right.
character, he's just off to the side. We could just animate a little bit. But I
Yeah.
mean, there's some
No.
nuances and things that they do with this facial.
I almost felt like
muscle.
that was his screen test.
Yeah.
Right?
And it was,
Absolutely.
Let's
Yeah.
throw him in there. Let's give it all we got and see what he looks like on screen in this, episode.
They
it
also
was one of
knew-
those situations where you're like, wait, I want to see more.
Yeah.
No, don't
Yeah.
Yeah.
wait, bring him
Yeah.
back.
So I'm super excited. Like Ahsoka and Rebels that's my ultimate Star Wars. Ahsoka is by far my favorite character, and Rebels is by far my favorite Star Wars.
Mm.
So to me, this season 1 of Ahsoka is season 5 of Rebels.
Yeah, it's how they're gearing it up to be the continuation.
I'm
right?
like super psyched, ready to go on this.
But what I was going to say about the Zeb scene was they knew the fans were just going to go mental when they saw him. For me, that was almost the Luke Skywalker moment of this season.
Yeah.
Oh my God, look who it is!
You're right.
It
You're
did,
right.
And it was
have
done.
that.
It was done so well. The animation was just brilliant, and I thought, yeah, that's the movie stuff we see, in the big films,
Right.
And I'm thinking that's where a lot of the effort and attention and thought's gone into that one little bit, because they're, as you say, they're just building it up and they're introducing all of the characters. I think that there was a someone's multimedia post somewhere, one of the social media sites, where they put so far everybody we'd seen.
Right. Yes.
One gallery, and every single one of them just looks great. I'm so up for this. It just can't wait to see the ghost. We saw the little
Man, the ghost is that's gonna be my thing. That's got me most excited.
And they're going to keep it true, right? It's going to be just
I'm sure
a perfect replica of the cartoon.
there's also one little thing that I keep hearing rumblings about, and I'm like, oh man, Jason Syndulla, right? Because they're talking about it, and there could be some Jedi power there.
Maybe he goes to the Jedi Academy.
See, this is where I'll be honest with you, Tony. That was my immediate thought, was the tie-in.
Yeah.
That he's probably already at the academy, and they're just gonna swoop in there and pick him up one day. Like for summer camp or something.
Yeah.
So let's go back to Mando just for a second. So when you talked about power, force powers and stuff, it made me think about, for some reason, the dark saber, but which I know is not the force. But what do we think to its storyline and how it ended, or seemingly how it ended? I was confused by being crushed. I know he had a big, powerful suit on it, but I don't know.
My thought on that is I feel like they're trying to get away from that being the symbol of how you rule Mandalore.
Yeah.
Right. In general, for future seasons of Mandalorian, the wielding of the sword, is just like we got to squash that sooner than later. So now's a good chance. Let's do it.
Yep. And again, just tying up loose ends.
Which also seems to be based on hearsay at some point, because the whole bit, the line where Bo-Katan, he described that she saved him. No, she killed. She what was it? Defeated the person.
She defeated him. Right. Correct.
This is hearsay. I mean, I'd be like, "Where's the video? I want to see this." It's like it was. I don't know. It reminded me of the fall of Anakin scene, where all of a sudden he's on his knees going to the Emperor. Yeah, I'll work for you, mate. There was no real big thing, and that kind of felt reminiscent of that all of a sudden he's fighting her, and then like, okay, but that must have happened.
I think they're also playing that on the fact of the honor and the trust between Mandalorians, right? If I tell you this is how it went, this is how it went.
Even though he brought proof of the water back. So
right, I mean, he did bring the water back.
But it was a technicality, like.
So the theory,
he chose that moment to talk about. He could have told him that at any point, right?
Yeah.
So it's funny you say that, James, because there's a lot out there as far as that goes. I was listening actually to a Katie Sackhoff interview a few days ago, and she had mentioned that herself. She's like, couldn't he have just told me that on the drive over? I mean, it was a long drive from there to here. I don't know why he waited until after I had to get my butt kicked and win, and then he tells me this,
Right?
or tells them the Saber story.
Oh, and by the way,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, she won
Yeah.
that fair and square.
yeah,
Do you know what? It's just a TV show, guys. What's wrong with you all?
right. Take
Right.
it so seriously. I think the only thing about that, and I'm fine with it, like you said, let's squash that, get that out of the picture so that we can focus on other things and not
Yeah.
being so reliant on this one weapon.
Right.
Yeah. So let's talk about the setup then for a possible season 4. For me, some of the most enjoyable moments was the little bit at the end where he's sitting there with his legs up on his bounty hunter lodge.
Yeah.
Little kid playing in the pond, N1 parked out the side there. I'm like, this is my season right now. This is what I want to see. I want to see these. He wants work. This guy he's a responsible dad now. He wants some work again, but he only wants to take out the empire bit by bit. Yes, I want to see this season. For me.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Yeah. Which one of you wouldn't love to be hanging out in that place, though?
Oh,
right?
yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
I modeled it already. It was the first thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've also had the initial thought that when they showed that ending, I'm thinking to myself, okay, so he just united all these clans, and now he's going to go out and be a bounty hunter again. It's got to be a spinoff, right? What else can it be?
Mm-hmm.
They got to
Mhm.
continue that Mandalorian story as far as reclaiming the planet. What they don't just all disappear.
Yeah, I
Well,
guess
he's
they
off.
could continue that in any of the series in the Mandoverse, right?
Right.
Well, Boba Fett probably needs some help. So there you go.
Yeah. It would be
that
really good to see those guys pair up, right? Like they
again.
did in The Mandalorian, where
Yeah.
Boba Fett was actually badass.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right.
Breaking
I have
helmets.
to say, though, I was glad that they didn't bring him in at the very end to like save.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they just kept it with, this clan that had been fighting over the last
Right.
few episodes to try and get along and all of that. I think
Mm-hmm.
it would have really minimized that whole thing if somebody would have come in, Jedi, Boba
Yeah.
Fett, any of
Mhm.
that, right?
Yep.
To, I don't know.
Yeah, we're
save-
okay with that, but Tamura's pretty upset. Well, he's been all over the internet about that.
Really?
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't see anything
About what?
about it.
About Din Djarin hijacking his show, but he wasn't invited to be on their show.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He
I
was
read
out
that
there.
too, but it kind of reads a bit like sarcasm that I
Yeah.
think maybe the
Oh,
community,
was he just being funny?
I think so.
because he
Or-
is, isn't he?
I
It's kind of
hope-
like
Yeah,
that.
it's how
Yeah.
he is. But yeah, he was
Yeah.
out there. He was like, hey, if
When
on
you're a
my show-
badass again,
Yeah.
then you can come back
If
on the
you're-
show.
Well, that's another thing he was complaining about too. He wants that Boba Fett character to go back to the skull crushing, not the
Yeah.
Yeah.
piece.
He needs to
Now
go-
people who have it all tattooed on their arms and all are like, can I get this changed over to
Yeah.
Mando?
He needs to go upstairs. He needs to unplug his back to tank, right? Because that's bad. That's God
Yeah,
mode, and that
yeah.
makes the TV show not
Sell
fun.
that on eBay.
No,
Get
wait,
rid of that
the
stuff.
he's done with the back to tank. The back to tank now belongs to Cobb Vanth. He's still in it.
Yeah, but
Just
Mm.
get rid of it. You don't need that.
get back out there and smash some helmets. That's
Exactly.
where it's at.
Exactly.
That's what was so funny about the Boba Fett series too, was like, all of a sudden you had Mando 2.5, so
Yeah.
You did.
and you remember and realize, I think everybody wanted Boba Fett to be how the Mandalorian was in that
Yes.
one or
Right,
two
right.
episode arc where he's just,
Yeah,
just a complete and total badass.
Right.
Yeah.
he chopped some dude in half, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, he did.
But Boba Fett blows himself up. I think in the first episode, doesn't he? Doesn't he do himself over with one of his grenades or something? I can't remember now. But when he's fighting outside I can't remember. Maybe I need
You're
to
making
watch that
him to
again.
be a badass that he is not.
Oh, you're talking about when they surrounded him and they were tasering him and
Oh,
Yeah.
he did
Yeah.
blow some people up. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. That was brutal. That was by accident.
and all he had to do was jetpack out of there and never did.
That's all you had. Just fly away, friend.
Yeah, but you guys know though, I love
Take
Book
the
of
high
Boba Fett.
ground.
That's why we're trying to make fun of it even more, just to get to you, James.
I enjoyed it. I mean, I've watched it several times
Great.
already. I mean,
I did watch it several times.
it is
Yeah.
what it is, right?
It's
I mean,
fun.
we can't.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's not the worst thing I've seen. It's not the
Nah.
best thing I've seen. but I've seen it plenty of times.
And it's on Tatooine, and that just makes me smile.
Agreed.
If you think about it, if those first 3 movies of Star Wars would have come out in an era like now,
Yeah.
Mhm.
we could watch them ad nauseum, and we would.
Yeah.
At some point, it would be oversaturated.
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And there's also scenes and scenarios in there that would be ridiculed on the internet.
Yeah.
There's so much meme material in there.
Yep.
But for us, we watched it, and this is the thing. I think we've said this before. We watched it when we had the mind of children,
Right.
Yeah.
and now we're watching Star Wars as adults, that's a new experience, right?
Yep.
We're watching new Star Wars as adults. I like to think I'm an adult, but
And I feel that the gap between the prequels and the originals, where you'd catch it on TV here or there, you watched it every time, right? With a commercial or without.
Right.
I think that helped keep it on track and keep interest.
Yeah, that's a fear though, to oversaturation. That's a huge fear I have.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a money-making machine. Let's not lie. That's why Grogu was even back in season 3. I mean, they could have ended that and that would have been done. But in Mando 2.5, they revamped it up again to get that money.
Yeah.
And some poor decisions are going to be made just to get that coin and sell merchandise. You're weakening a brand that way.
Right.
And
those few things are obvious, right? Lola is nothing more than a moneymaker.
Oh man, the moment I saw
it
that,
served no purpose.
None.
I mean, I shouldn't say it served no purpose. It served a purpose, but it wasn't a necessity.
No.
Oh, there.
Get that thing out of here.
Well, I mean, they could say that about the initial films too, because George Lucas has said multiple times he didn't ask for more money, didn't ask for more points.
Right.
The Writers Guild or the Filmmakers Association. He just wanted the rights to sell toys.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm sorry, action figures. Right, Ron?
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, from the very beginning, it's all George's fault.
All of this.
But is
the money I spend, all of it. All of it. It's all George's fault.
Is it a bad thing though that they make toys on this
Nope,
stuff? Because
not at all.
Is it? I mean,
not at all. More power to them. My only complaint, or not really a complaint, but concern, is are you oversaturating?
Right.
And I think they might have realized that too, because remember, we were supposed to get Obi-Wan was supposed to be a movie. We were supposed to get another Han Solo movie, but because the first one failed, which I liked, but whatever.
I did too.
We were supposed to get a Yoda movie. It was about to become oversaturated, and they put the brakes on it. So I think they kind of realized that, but then you have the shows pumping out. So I don't know. I just
like to think
a little frightened.
Yeah. I just like to think that Andor exists. So therefore we know we can have adult meaningful Star Wars.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Andor just incredible.
I was telling Brian Thompson this right after the shows came out, It's like within the first 5 minutes of the first episode, you got a dude going into a brothel.
Yeah.
You got a dog pissing on a droid, and then he kills 2 people, like in cold blood, flat out cold blood. And I'm like, this ain't your children Star Wars anymore.
Yeah.
And I just hope that's not the end of that. I hope Andor is not just the one and done. I really hope they explore that level of Star Wars story drama, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of who they hire to do those. Do they keep Tony's going to do a second season, right? So we know that. I mean, we all saw him at Celebration. Everybody was like, "This guy is the guy," right?
Yeah.
I mean, the whole room was. He took the room over. He owned the entire convention. He owned it.
Yeah, he did.
On program.
Yeah.
Yep.
Brilliant.
So hopefully he gets that bug and wants to do something else even after Andor. And
it really matters who they put into these positions. And I don't know if this is going to come out right, but it's almost like they need to maybe get 1 or 2 more people that are not a fan if that makes
Tony
sense.
Gilroy said he's really not.
Yeah, he's
that
like,
in Star Wars.
do I know
Mhm.
about it? Sure, he's of age. Everybody knows about it, but he's not. He ain't building one of these in his basement.
Right.
Though he should.
Absolutely.
That's an interesting concept, Dennis, isn't it? You've raised there, because I'm conscious of not having too much time on this, but we're going to wrap it up soon. But anyway, you can edit that bit out. Really interesting concept, Dennis, because I think if you put a fan in control, right? I know if I was asked to write stuff, right, none of you guys are going to like it, because I'm going to write Tatooine shit. Sorry, Tatooine stuff. It's going to be everything I want to see,
Right,
yeah,
that's the
in
thing.
Star Wars. And you
Yeah.
might think, yeah, that's great, but actually, for Dennis, where's my Rebel stuff? What's going on? You know, where's the Ghost?
Yeah.
So I think with a fan, you go in there with an agenda, and you're going to go Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars, how you see it.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
Tony Gilroy is just damn good at what he does, right?
Right.
So he makes
Story
drama.
writing.
He made drama. He made a Star Wars drama. It just happened to be set in the Star Wars universe, loosely
Right.
connected to the Star Wars
Yeah.
storyline, and therefore you just got damn good TV.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we've talked about it before, right? You could take that script and put it anywhere you want, right? In any decade or any planet, or even in modern day life.
Genre, right?
Genre, there's the
Yeah.
word I was looking for. Thank you, Tony.
Yeah,
And, and you still probably have a hit show,
it still worked.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It still works.
I guess all they really need is a start point and an end point for the storyline, and say, knock yourself out, get from there
Yeah.
to there, however you want to do it.
Mhm.
And this is
Yeah.
what excites me about the Skeleton Crew, when I hear that the brief for that was to create a 1980s Amblin entertainment style movie with kids in it,
Yes.
which was all of the things I loved about the 80s and 90s.
Right.
You know, it was
Yeah.
those kind of films like Goonies and Star Wars. Hell yes,
Yeah.
let's have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get it released already.
Well,
And
that's why I think the Stranger Things has done so well.
Yes.
Is they
Yeah.
played on all
Yeah.
that nostalgia also,
Mhm.
you know.
Right.
But it was also a good story, and again, they're comparing it to Stranger Things in space. So
Yes.
you know, I heard today too, Dennis, you mentioned it a minute ago, like it's mainly kid focused, but
Yeah.
apparently there's some pretty dark undertones throughout the whole
Yeah.
show
I think
that'll still keep us interested and not feel like a kid show. You know what I mean?
right. I mean, if you think about it, Goonies the same way, right? It's a kid show, but there's that little bit of a dark element where you're,
Oh yeah, definitely.
you know,
Right.
There is.
so
They
it
actually
works.
break a willy off of a statue, guys.
Yeah.
It's pretty
There's nothing
dark.
much. There's nothing more adult than that, right?
It works.
Yes, I said willy. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. But there was just one more point I wanted to make on the kid Goonie thing, and what they were saying in the Star Wars, the Skeleton Crew, was it's obviously based on that kind of thing. However, you can't put 80s nostalgia into a Star Wars world, because not like they could sit there and play Pac-Man, and we were like, oh yeah, I used to play that
Right,
too, because
right.
they're in the stuff.
Right.
So they're not going to be able to pull on our history. So it's going to be really interesting how they approached nostalgia of that time without being able to quote, you know, like, oh,
That's
look,
a good
there's
point.
Millennium Falcon in someone's bedroom. It's like, that's going to be really
Yeah.
interesting.
They
See
could,
how they do that.
they could visit ET.
Could do.
They could.
They could visit ET.
He's part of the universe now.
So anyway, I think we've had a really great conversation. It's gone off at
Agreed.
many different tangents, and that's fine.
It's all right.
But Tony, a large, part of this show is about you. So let's go back to you. What would you say to any prospective room builder, model maker, whatever, to get them going? What's your finishing words?
Yeah, I think try not to bite it all off, as one big bite. Like I said, when I started, it was just, I'm just going to try this. I'm not committing to a whole room. I'm not even committing to a whole wall. I just want to do something, and learn as I go. So don't get so overwhelmed with the bigger picture that paralysis by analysis, right? You just, or I don't know how to do this the correct way, because I see that a lot in a lot of other things with like how you fix a sink, or you know what I mean, like stuff around the house.
Right.
You want to do it the right way, right? So you don't break anything, or well, we won't even go there. Plumbing is not my thing, but with this, it doesn't have to be the right way. You just
Right.
do
Right.
something. Like no matter what it is, at the end of the day, is my room perfect? God, no. It's not even close. But I love it, and it
Yeah.
presents the feel that I wanted, and it's mine. Like we talked about before, James, right? Like our benches are ours. Ron, you got the incredible theater with all of the imperial walls. It's yours. You built it. And now,
Yeah.
Dennis, you have a wall. Yeah, it's awesome. So that's what I would say. That, and to the renters again, if you're in an apartment, you can still make it into a Star Wars theme. Just be mindful of how you install it,
Right.
and so you don't have to wait until you buy your first home or
Exactly.
like that.
Exactly. Just think modular. That's all.
Yes,
Yeah.
modular is your friend.
Yep.
And of course, what you don't know, Tony.
Build with what you know, and figure out the rest.
Yes.
There
it is.
Yeah. Put it in there. Anyway, it's been a great time talking to you all this evening for me. Anyway, well, it's evening for everyone, isn't it? Early morning for me now.
Wow.
So I hope you guys have enjoyed seeing us chewing the fat of Star Wars, and we really do love The Mandalorian and season 3. We were just giving you our opinion.
Yep.
But we know you feel the same. So anyway, guys, that's enough for me. So thanks again, and look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Almost Star Wars Show.
Yep. Take care, guys.